We've been looking at International Widows Day. Yes, International Widows Day. And we've been talking about how widows in Nigeria, everything that they get to go through and all the issues and all the troubles that they get to go through, the policy changes, what we expect of the government to do for the widows. And well, why this day was set aside, these are some of the issues we'll be covering this morning. And joining me is our guest, Ambassador MAVIS OGBEWI. She's the face of Miss Face of Humanity Nigeria, the fourth ambassador 2025. I'm delighted to have you here, looking all radiant.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
I'm delighted to have you. And then also, it would be interesting to know that she was from Delta State and she's a graduate of law and founder of the Child's Health and Women Rights on Watch. Yes, Child's Health and Women Rights on Watch. She advocates for child's rights, women's rights, and currently working with UNICEF Nigeria to create a sustainable future where every child and women's rights are protected. How amazing is that?
Thank you.
So impressive. The work that you are doing for the society, it's commendable, highly commendable.
Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so heading straight to the discussion this morning, let's get to understand the context. So why was International Widows Day established, and what does it signify for Nigerian widows?
Okay, firstly, I would like to start with giving the definition of widowhood.
Okay.
Now first, widowhood is a tragic event that has occurred in the life of a married person whereby their spouse, either timely or untimely, is maybe dead as a result of an issue or an occurrence. Now, first of all, it will interest you to know that the United Nations introduces us to the International Women's Day as a day of action to bring to light the poverty and the sufferings that the widows go through. And also, in doing this, they are also advocating for the dependents, those who are depending on the widows for sustenance. Because whatever affects the widow or what affects the breadwinner automatically affects the dependent. And as a child's rights advocate, my initiative is not just limited to children. So we are focused on also ensuring that those who are directly and indirectly related to them are also provided for. So yes, they introduced us to International Widows Day, the United Nations, yes.
Okay, so they introduced it and now it's been commemorated in Nigeria every June 23rd.
Yes.
All right, so now let's talk about how prevalent widowhood is in Nigeria and what socioeconomic challenges do widows typically encounter in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So, according to statistics, we have over 254 million widows worldwide. But Nigeria is recorded to have the largest, which is over 15 million widows. Now, this is a fact that occurred, but sincerely speaking, we can always play a part to ensuring that these widows do not get to go through the things that they go through in the country. Now, you asked what are the socio-economic, so I'm going to list that and give an explanation. So firstly, we see social stigmatization. It is very evident and we see it, and most persons have experienced this social stigmatization. Sometimes it's as a result of the harmful traditional practices of each of the ethnicity group in our country. So for the Easterners, I believe that they are made to, if a woman who loses her husband and does not have a male child, there's this male primogeniture law that guards the Easterners. And as a result of this, they always try as much as possible to avoid the woman from getting a property, from having access to any of her late husband's property. And these are the harmful traditional practices. And so many other practices. There are so many others that when you read about these things, you get to see that some people go through a lot of things, particularly the widows. And we all know that this situation, it is not by their will. And so if you have to make them go through all of these things just because we feel like they've lost something or because we believe that culture must stand, I think it's absurd. And aside this, it affects their economic growth. So there's a form of economic insecurity that comes up as a result of them not having access to the property. And sometimes they are left to live all by themselves without aid, without assistance, and this results to economic insecurity, like I said earlier. And aside this, having to be economically secured, it affects your health. Because if you're going to have access to healthcare, if you're going to have access to enough finance to ensure that you have your healthcare taken care of, like your health taken care of, it leads to a lot of things. It leads to a lot of mortality rates.
Yes.
And so I think all of these things are what affects the widows in our country, Nigeria, today.
And then you do know that there are some cultures in Nigeria that have some weird rituals where some weird rituals that widows have to undergo and all of that. And then sometimes it seems like the widows can't really do much about these things. And so let's talk about some of those harmful widow practices that are still observed in parts of Nigeria and how they affect the dignity and rights of widows.
Yes. So I came across this research. There was a time I was researching about widows and the women in general. I came across this. There's a part in Nigeria that actually they avoid or prevents the widows from taking part in the burial rites of their husband.
Yes.
Like, who does that? It doesn't even sit well in any way, because she has lost her husband. She's expected to pay her last respect to her husband, but she's avoided. And sometimes they get these women to drink the water from the corpse of their husband, just to prove that they don't have a hand in the death of their husband. And all of these harmful practices, in one way or the other, will affect definitely the psychology of these women. And if it affects them psychologically, then that's moving them to a place where they are not mentally stable and they are not mentally all right. And inculcating these practices will, in one way or the other, also affect the dependence of these widows, because widows are left with their children most times to take care of. And if you're already making her go through all of these things because you feel like she has to, it is culture, you're in one way or the other affecting the lives of these dependents, affecting the lives of her children. And that in itself has affected a large number of the citizens in Nigeria. And I think we need to start working on eradicating completely all of these cultural beliefs that women, widows particularly, need to go through all of these rigorous processes to ensure that their hands are clean, or to ensure that they can fully go back into the world as women. So I think we need to start working on averting things like that.
It's actually quite sad that a widow whose husband has just passed, instead of her looking for ways to mourn her husband, she's thinking of how she's going to survive this sort of treatment that she'll get from society. Some tribes, they expect you to shave your head immediately. You shave your head. For some tribes, you don't come outside for months. For a long time. For a long time, you don't come outside. Depending on people. How long would you depend on family members to provide food for yourself? And maybe you have younger children that can basically do nothing. It's quite sad. And these harmful practices, there are supposed to be laws that protect these women, like the VAP Act 2015 prohibits such practices. But why does it seem like enforcement has remained weaker across many states?
Exactly. I'm a human rights activist, a child's rights advocate. I believe so much that it is not just about writing it down on paper, but actually bringing it to enforceability, implementing it. And I believe that Nigerians are slacking Nigerian government is slacking in that aspect, because it's not just about writing down the laws, but ensuring that these laws come to play. Like you said, the VAP Act, which is the Violation Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, rightly stated, and specifically in section 15, sub 1, sub 2, sub 3, it clearly stated the punishment that should be meted out to people who deprive widows or inflict harm to or violate these rights, the rights of the widows. It actually provides for punishment. But these days, we don't even see that being enforced. It is not enforced. And that is why each time I get the opportunity, I always tend to call on the government to do something about it. I think there are a lot of things that they need to work on, particularly has had to do with human rights, which is clearly stated in the Constitution, which of course is the ground norm of the Nigerian law. And I believe when we start implementing, when the government particularly start implementing, because we as individuals, there's little we can do, all right? We can try as much as possible to empower these people and do things for them, but if we've not actually worked on the deep cause, the root cause of this issue, it will be prevalent, it will continue to happen. So that's why we are calling on the government to ensure that all of the agencies and parastatals that ought to be put in place to ensure that these these laws are implemented should be put in place and should start now, should act now, should put hands on deck to ensure that these widows' rights are protected.
Yes. All hands on deck to make sure that these laws are implemented, and the act should start now. Well, beyond ending harmful traditions and practices, now, how critical is economic empowerment in supporting widows' financial independence and overall well-being?
Well, I'm someone who believes so much in empowerment.
Okay.
I believe that empowerment has a way of shaping your mentality. It gives you this spirit of resilience, and it helps you to work on your well-being generally. So if we are to empower these women, what we are doing is helping them fight through and to ensure that they survive. We are helping them to see life in a different perspective, other than the life that perhaps the family members have actually made them see. We are trying to make them see a different life, to give them hope. I'm someone who loves to volunteer for events like this, or programs like this, because I know that one way or the other, we're impacting these people. One way or the other, we are trying to inculcate in them the hope for a good life, a hope for a better life for themselves. Now, when we empower them, we are raising up leaders. As today's theme for today's International Day, Widows Day, it talks about leadership. And we are by doing that, by empowering them, we are raising leaders. We are helping them to see life in a different perspective.
That's very beautiful. Now, let's say the role that the government can play, the federal, the state, and even the local levels.
Yes.
The role they can play in ensuring sustainable support systems for widows. What do you think they could do?
Definitely, like we said, the most important thing is to implement those laws, to ensure that those laws are duly implemented.
Yes.
But aside that, there are also initiatives that they could come up with, initiatives that will help to financially, help them to grow financially, help these widows to grow financially, help them to, learn a skill. Because most times, these women that go through social stigma, sometimes it affects their job, it affects their work, it affects a lot of things.
Yes.
And I believe that if the government is able to empower them by providing a skill for them, not just providing them with the training, but also providing them with the capital to start. They can do that, provide initiative that would support them monthly. They can always provide an initiative that will support the widows monthly, financially, psychologically, health-wise, to ensure that these widows are actually in the right frame of mind.
That's actually beautiful. Right here in Delta State, we have several administrations that during their time in office, they sort of pay widows salary. Even though it's as little as 20,000 or even more, I'm not sure of the amount they used to get paid, but monthly they get something. And then you see during, say, any festive period, you see them gathering at a point, and you hear, yes, the state government wants to support the widows or the local government. While these initiatives are beautiful, but sometimes I feel these supports, they are maybe too minimal. This doesn't guarantee them independence financially, because at the end of the month, you're giving someone peanuts, or you're organizing a campaign and you're providing them with 1 cup of rice. I mean, they have become the people that anybody that makes little money, let's support the widows, and you're supporting them maybe with something small or something huge. Let's hope for a time where you have widows that are free from all of these things. They are free from financial constraints. They are able to raise their children properly. They are not being harassed. They are not being maltreated in the society. Because there are so many laws that get to affect these widows, so many cultural laws that get to affect these widows. And some of these widows, you don't see them coming out. You don't talk about it. So now, in the fight against harmful traditions, let's talk about some of the successes. You know, you've been in the campaign for a while now. What successes and challenges have been experienced through collaborations like this?
Okay, I'm someone who is heavy on collaboration, because it not only helps you to work even more, but also it promotes Sustainable Development Goal 17, which talks about collaboration. I believe that when we come together as a force, we will always make sources, a huge sources. But definitely, during my course of volunteering, I've come to realize that there are people who are willing to collaborate.
Okay.
Some don't know how, some they do, but don't know the channel to go through.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why most times it's okay for us to speak up about our plans, our initiatives, talk to organizations, talk to parastatals. You would definitely see people who are willing to support you, who are willing to collaborate with your organization or willing to collaborate with you to ensure that these goals are achieved. So yeah, collaboration is a good thing, and there are people who are willing to collaborate. And for the impact of collaboration,
yes,
it is so huge. It cannot be overemphasized because collaboration has done a lot of things in helping us to shape the community and our communities and society better and in a bigger way, in a greater and larger form. So yeah, collaboration is important.
All right.